with family. But what's Christmas without money? Yesterday, thankfully, we heard from the CBN to defend its cash withdrawal limit policy. Recall that the CBN governor had declined honoring the invitation from lawmakers twice now, but eventually was represented by the Deputy Governor of Financial System Stability of the CBN yesterday. And the CBN is saying that this new policy isn't targeted at vulnerable people and that it has nothing to do with all the political coloration that has followed suit. We also are now hearing that the bank may have listened to the feedback from lawmakers and other stakeholders by reviewing the withdrawal limit upward for individuals from 100 to 500,000 and from 500,000 to 5 million for corporate organization. The processing fee has also been reviewed downwards from 5 and 10% for individual and corporate organization respectively, down to 3 and 5%. We have details of the explanation coming from the CBN speaking while the Deputy Governor was speaking with lawmakers yesterday. Let's begin from there.
At exactly 11:12 a.m., CBN's Deputy Governor of Financial System Stability leads other members of the Committee of Governors to the floor of the House after necessary legislative procedures. In less than 10 minutes, she takes the legislators through the rudiments of the bank's monetary policy. She says the latest policy was targeted at discouraging hoarding of Naira notes and in line with the outcome of researches and data gathered.
Data available to us shows that 94% of all transactions, cash transactions, fall below the 500,000 limit. And this includes in areas in the country that are predominantly cash, that are not part of the cashless policy.
Questions followed from the legislators, some of which unsettled their guests.
Can the CBN tell Nigerians how much was printed out of this new currency?
Over 1.4 million POS agents in Nigeria. And this new policy will render them
policy right now. We want you to tell us categorically for how long will this be?
Aisha Hamad could not answer to the lawmakers' inquiry regarding how much of the new Naira notes were printed and in circulation. This is in view of the fact that the redesigned Naira notes remain scarce in the market.
Okay, how much was printed? I'm sorry, I'm not able to share that figure now because, and only because I want to give an accurate number.
The statutory duties wasn't optional, obligatory of the CBN under Section 8 of the CBN Act to brief this House on your monetary policies.
Attempts by Jigawa legislator Gudaji Kazauri, who came in when the session was being rounded off to ask questions, was not recognized. The House did not take any resolution after meeting with the Central Bank of Nigeria. This may not be unconnected to Tuesday's readjustment of the policy by the CBN, which now permits 500,000 Naira and 5 million Naira for individual and corporate accounts as weekly cash withdrawal limits. Joke Adsa, TVC News, Abuja.
Well, eventually we found out that some 500 million pieces of the currency were printed. I'm joined this morning by Mukhtar Mohammed, who is a stockbroker, financial analyst, and investment banker, and is the CEO of Finance with Mukhtar. Compliments of the season.
Same here.
We always find a way of being together during Christmas.
During Christmas, but not on Christmas Day.
Thankfully, Christmas is on Sunday, so I'm also not going to be here. Johnson Chukwu has also joined us virtually, CEO, Kari Asset Management Limited. Good morning, Mr. Chukwu. Okay. Mr. Chukwu is just getting ready. I'd like to know if you've handled the newly designed Naira note yet.
I've not even seen it.
I haven't seen it too.
I've not even
so
seen
I was
it.
somewhere and then someone held it, but I was just not as interested. I mean, I don't know why I haven't shown so much interest. But I'd like us to begin with the cashless policy itself, because the CBN is saying there's nothing new about it. It kick-started all the way from 2012, and this perhaps the 10th year, and that a lot has happened. There's been a wide proliferation of access points, financial access points. There are some amazing figures here that in 2012 we had 48 billion naira in POS transaction, but today on electronic transfer, we have 6 trillion now today in POS transaction and some 3 trillion in 2012 for electronic transfer, which has now increased tremendously into 300 trillion as of October this year. And that there's been 7,000% increment over the years. What are your thoughts about this journey thus far?
I think the journey has been an eventful journey, and I think it's a journey that we've taken without putting, making sure that those that do not adhere to the law are punished. And so if we've been doing that, we won't have the kind of issues that we are having now. The Money Laundering Act, I've also stated that you cannot withdraw above 10 million for companies and 5 million for an individual. That's what the act says, and that is the act that is supposed to be followed by CBN. And that act did not come with a fine because CBN does not have the right to fine you. It's only the court of law that have the right to fine anybody in any case. So that is one. Then secondly, the CBN Act does not permit it to begin to fine people over infringement into the that is left for the law court to do. And then the CBN Act also, what the CBN have done is that they teach it now. You know, before they were saying that if you withdraw above that limit, you pay a fine. But they've now changed it that it's processing fee. Processing fee. So definitely they are beginning to listen to what people are saying, and they are beginning to amend their ways as regard that. For me, it's been a very good journey. Like the numbers can't lie. That's right. It has been a very good journey. A lot of people will say, when last did I even have cash in my hand that is up to 10,000 naira? I mean, I've seen a lot of people.
Well, except you're going for Owambe.
Owambe, and we know who goes to Owambe and do those things. So for me, I think it has been a very good journey. We need to keep improving upon it. And I think remember that this journey did not start with all over the country. Lagos did it for Lagos and Abuja, I think, did it for almost three years before we started seeing
Abia and several
other states to join after. Then we have partial in some states. We have so it has been a policy that has been ongoing, not starting from Emefiele. It has been there before Emefiele came into power. So definitely, I think it has been a great policy for the financial sector. If you look at the banks, their non-income revenue has also grown up through this medium also, and also they have invested so much in infrastructure, and I think they will still do more. They've even done more now that I say we have gone cardless. Just your fingerprint or your facial recognition can withdraw money for you. So definitely, I think we are doing well as regard that. The lawmaker may have their reasons for trying to, say, look, this policy is not right, especially in the rural area. But when you look at the figure that was rolled out, that the rural area, the maximum withdrawal they've done is 18,000. So definitely, the CBN has put all this into factor before coming up with this. But I don't think I agree with what the CBN said that almost every rural area have a bank and have a...
We'll get there. So, let me bring in Mr. Chiku very quickly. I'd like to hear your review of how well we've done with the cashless policy in the past 10 years. The CBN is saying that after all, the maximum withdrawal that we have, it's about less than the 500,000, and 94% of the withdrawals we're having right now at the individual level is less than 500,000, and I think about 82% of corporate organization transaction is also within the reviewed transaction limit. What are your thoughts about how far we've gone? Well, we probably will get back to Mr. Chiku. Okay, we'll return to him shortly when we can establish connection with him. But what the CBN is saying here is that there might not be any concerns, particularly the fears that have been expressed in the past days. If, as we speak right now, over 90% of the financial transaction we've had at the individual level is within the transaction limit.
I think the concern has to do with individuals' level also, because when you look at the vulnerable Nigerians, you are talking about the man, the casual worker, you are talking about the man that works in the site, you are talking about the engineer that has to pay that man cash, I think that's where Nigerians were particular about. You're talking about the rural area, talking of the man that wants to go to farm, and when he wants to go to the market to buy a farm product, and he's holding, he wants to hold like 100,000 naira cash. He wants to get there, he buy this, he buy that, and with the inflationary figure that we have now, 100,000 naira before used to be like, maybe you say like, you're going to the market almost 200,000, but now it's less than that, and the goods have also gone up. I think that's the where CBN did not take into consideration, because if you say that averagely about 500,000, individual don't withdraw above that 500,000, you need to look at it at which context. Is it when the exchange rate or when those goods and services are within? So you know a lot of things have happened.
You're saying that the dynamics are changing fast.
It is changing fast.
But CBN is relying on the data it's obtained, saying that people in the remote locations are concerned about have now embraced online banking.
They have, but again, I don't think, I mean, they have the data. We don't have the data. They are just rolling out the data. And that's why they said you need to engage stakeholders so that they know what you are doing. Now, if you look at that figure, it was saying that in almost every location you have banks there. It was saying that in almost every location you have POS terminals. It's saying that you have a microfinance bank. I agree with the essence that you may have microfinance bank, but how efficient are these microfinance bank in terms of infrastructure? Then again, when you talk about POS terminal, there seems to be one of the people have been talking about, but they have come in to say most people in the rural area don't do above 20. But when you talk about the banking space in the rural area, I don't think we have so much of the banking space in the rural area. Especially they are not taking into consideration the security challenges that we have in the rural area. I don't think there's any bank in Bama. I don't think there's any bank in towards the Lake Chad area of Borno State. Even if you go to Kaduna and Gwari, I don't think any bank branch is open in those places because of the security challenges that are happening. Even some part in Katsina, even in some part in the east. So we need to look at peculiarity with the challenges that we are going through now, looking at it via the policy that we are doing. I think that is what I felt the lawmakers should be talking about, not really talking about, this, I have a right to my money. No, in any part of the world, there's a certain limit that you can withdraw cash. It is done, it's a global best practice.
But with 500K per week, POS operators are not going to be really adversely affected.
Well, they have not come out clearly to tell us that the POS operators are among those that will benefit from the 500,000 per week. They said, they said for individuals, they have not gone to the POS, so they need to address that. That means for individuals, and that means when you talk about individual, you're not talking about individuals that are close to the banking, or you cannot withdraw that by the POS or the ATM. The review of the ATM of 20,000 naira every day still stands. I mean, 20,000 per day and 100,000 in a week still stands. Or the POS terminal cannot do more than 100,000, still stands. What they are saying now is for individuals to walk into the banking space and you'll be able to withdraw 500,000.
Wow. So the previous regulations as to not having ATMs dispense 1,000 naira, I think they say it's going to be 200 naira and 100 naira. I
think basically, even if you go to UK, for example, and you give somebody 50 pounds, they look at you like you are weird. They prefer to collect the 20 pounds. So when you look at global, if you go to the United States too, realize when you want to use their POS terminal, they come out with lower denomination. So I don't think it's out of place. But because, I keep saying, because of some of our goods and services are not even priced in kobo, you don't even have the kobo, so you normally see the round.
It boils down to the value of the currency.
You round it up. So that's why I think a lot of people are having challenges. Not because it's a problem, because they are talking about in the area you withdraw 20,000. Then you're looking at the security implication of 200,000. If I have to withdraw 100,000 in a day, it looks bulky in my pocket, and that could attract people to me that may want to rob. And so I think that's why people are, it's not because 200 naira note withdrawn from the ATM. Sometimes you go to this ATM to withdraw these notes. Ordinarily, they should come up with those ones of some of the best notes. But you don't see that once you get to withdraw very dirty notes from the ATM terminals. So
all right. Very quickly, we're going to take a look at what the benefits are for these limitations in transaction, or what CBN says the benefits will be in a short while. But George has called in from Ikeja. Good morning, George.
Good morning, Nifemi, and good morning to Mukhtar.
Good morning.
Nifemi, in this life, it's not what you do per se that counts. It's what lies behind it. this cashless policy has been in existence before Emefiele came to CBN and is been progressing gradually. But all of a sudden, the tone just changed. Why that sudden change? That is what is at play here. The argument being put forward by CBN officials that it will curb insecurity and all that, I don't buy it. There was a time a relation of the CBN governor was kidnapped, and they demanded 200 million naira. They should ask Mr. Emefiele whether he paid that money through transfer or by cash. So the argument that if we curb insecurity, kidnapping, and all that cannot work. Even the kidnappers themselves are already demanding that they want the new notes that are even scarce to get. It will further make people to become vulnerable to kidnapping. That is that. The volume of transactions in this country, we all know that both people in the rural areas don't have this banking attitude. The CBN is supposed to be doing a persuasive policy that will make people to get interested in banking. Now, people are not even interested because if you can't go to a bank and say you want a loan to do one business or the other and get it easily. If you put money in the bank to take it out, they find it difficult. Those are the things that the CBN should be addressing, not just taking things, and imposing it on the people without minding the level of enlightenment of the people. You can't take a policy above the level of the people as they stand in terms of enlightenment. That is what is bringing all
I get your
problem.
point, Mr. George. It would also seem that the CBN is listening if the withdrawal limit has been reviewed upwards and if the processing fees have also been reviewed downwards. But what the deputy CBN governor said yesterday was the fact that the whole essence of this is to encourage more people to come into the formal payment system. And he mentioned the idea of kidnapping. So we've seen a lot of kidnapping for ransom in the outgoing year, and it's been in cash, allegedly. Perhaps it's also going to resolve it because there is no cash to give you. If you're asking for 200 million, that means I will have to transfer the money to you, and that may be a bit more traceable, don't you think?
For me, I think it was more of both. You see, what CBN was doing is they've looked at their economic policies. These policies were not really working, especially their direct intervention. And it was not working. It wasn't working. It was not that it was not working because it's a bad policy, but it was not working because the security aspect of it, which is the physical side. So CBN need to stylishly go in there. And let me tell you, it will curtail banditry, it will curtail terrorism. Remember, immediately this policy came to play, even this policy, the redesign of the Naira note, realized that terrorists in the Lake Chad region started saying they don't need Naira again, they need to be paid them. It's safer. So it also is a big challenge to them also. And I was in the north some while ago and I spoke to some people, they said, there are a lot of cash that these kidnappers have collected that they use inside the bush and also use for purchase of arms and everything. They cannot even return those cash into the banking space. So it's more or less like those money will just lie there and will be of no use to them. So definitely, no matter how you see that, they will start asking. At the point they said they will start asking from dollar. That's what Gumi said. Gumi said the kidnappers will start asking for dollars. And even in asking for dollar, you need to withdraw Naira to go to the Bureau change. And the Bureau change. So definitely, they have put spine on their wheel. That's the truth, security-wise. It's going to be tough for them. But like Mr. George said, the only challenge we have to do with those that are victims. You know, when you are not victims, it's easy for you to talk about this policy, to talk about. But once you are a victim, which means that your people need to sort for this money, they want you alive, that is where the challenge will come.
Ibrahim has called in from Kwara. Just a minute, Mr. Mukhtar. Good morning, Ibrahim.
Good morning.
Good morning. Please go ahead.
All right. The data that the CBN brought to us, that you just mentioned, that about how many trillions that was being transacted on the POS and other electronic means of transaction. I don't think they are being fair about it because I'm a POS operator. One day, for one customer, I've withdrawn more than 500,000 naira for a customer. And it's just ordinary people like me also. using it for business. And I've also gone to one bank in Omara, First Bank to be precise. I wanted to withdraw to use the money for POS transaction. But I was told by the bank I had to go outside to the POS there and go and withdraw. So where are we taking it to? That's my take. Thank you.
It's all right. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, that's interesting to the fact that I think the CBN actually has a limit. Let me tell you something about the POS. The POS terminal has become a conduit pipe for fraudulent activities. All the fraudsters now, they use the POS terminals. We've seen that happen. EFCC have arrested a lot. We've seen that happen to people. I've seen that happen to a friend of mine 2 weeks ago, where somebody fraudulently sells goods to them on the social media space, and they needed to do the withdrawal. The person will go to, the money goes into his account. He doesn't go to the bank to withdraw it. He goes to the POS terminal to withdraw it. So definitely the POS terminal itself has become a conduit pipe where those fraudulent activities taken care of. Because if the POS terminal, whole idea of the POS terminal was not meant to meet people that could withdraw 500,000, 100,000. It was basically to make the right people that are unbankable, bankable. And what we are looking at, we're looking at people that will come to withdraw 20,000, 10,000, 8,000, 2,000 even. That's what the POS terminal was meant for. The POS terminal was meant to make business easy for the informal sector, especially the woman that is selling in the market, buying that, okay, look, ATM is not always working. Okay, you have a POS, I can go beside there, buy those goods and collect that money. So it's even out of place for a POS terminal to be able to do one transaction of 500. By the time you investigate some of those transactions, they are transactions that were done fraudulently. Somebody is hacking into somebody's account and is using the POS.
How do we deal with that without infringing with the economic nature of this business? Because politicians would tell you that this is an employer of labor to thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of young Nigerians.
When you look at that, you also look at the hundreds of thousands of Nigerians that will be losing their money to those points too. You mustn't look at a situation just one-sided because it's creating employment, then you need to overlook the security aspect of it. Because some people hard-earned money has gone to the POS terminal. What you should be looking at is what is the security implication of if we have to do it. You need to sit down with the regulators and say, look, let's rejig this thing. Like I was telling somebody, if you say, I want to withdraw above 500,000 a week in the bank, I need to fill from that to the MD. Then if a COS terminal is supposed to do above 100,000 in a week, let them, sometimes you go to the bank when you want to withdraw a particular sum of money, they take your thumb, you have to do your thumb print, you have to do your facial recognition, before they now will give you that money. I think those should be applied to the CBN, to the POS terminal. If you are able to create that infrastructure for them, then you begin to say, okay, fine, it will reduce fraudulent activities, then the job that you are creating for them will remain. CBN is not just talking about the aspect of it whereby money, they are looking at also the people that are committing fraud through the POS terminal. Because the responsibility of CBN is to their customers also where they are keeping money for, not just for the employer of labor, which is the POS terminal.
So the question is not whether or not the cashless policy is beneficial. The question is, are we really ready? So let us take the electronic banking system as an example. My personal concern has been with the reversal of failed transaction. So with cash, it's dependable. If I'm in the market and I want to buy something for my children for Christmas, I'm certain that I have cash with me. But then imagine that I pay for an item and then the money is taken from my account, and then the guy I'm paying to doesn't get the money. But the bank is telling me that I have to wait some 7 working days. They do not even comply with the CBN provision of 24 hours, 72 hours. It is very frustrating.
Very, very frustrating.
For many Nigerians. So you want to question, why are we not focusing on making this system seamless as a prerequisite to driving us forcefully
that's where
into online
that's where
transactions?
Infrastructure comes. That's what I think the CBN should partner with them. It's all about infrastructure. Those reversal, those things, it's all about infrastructure. We need to build sound infrastructure. I have a challenge with the CBN policy that we need to look at the cyber security aspect of it. You're talking about when you have about 82% of Nigeria, now you are taking it up, and you see that if you listen to the report that have been released by NDIC, how many banks were fraudulently, were defrauded, frauded in terms of money, then you begin to ask yourself, how much of this been able, and sometimes these things are, this crime are carried out in conjunction with staffs in the bank. We've seen a lot of investigation on that. So they need to look at that area of cybersecurity and begin to say, how can we improve upon it? How can we get more people into the banking space? How can they be secure in their transaction? I think, and again, you're talking, sir, I've said it, in developed economy in the world, once you do a transaction and you said, okay, this transaction did not follow through because the man on the other end is saying, I did not receive it. Immediately they sort it out for you while they go behind to investigate whether this money got there or not. Then they do the reversal later.
After all, you have an account with them.
You can't keep somebody money for 7 days. You are telling the person to fill a form, and then you are telling the person that will. So what I think the CBN should do, you need to look at how much is in that person's account. Does he have enough if by chance this money has actually gone out for us to retrieve our money back? So those are technicalities that the CBN need to look at. Because even in developed economy, you do a transaction of 500,000, or even, let me use the America for instance. You do a transaction of $1,000 to an individual. It takes 2 days for the individual. The individual will see that money is in account, but he will not be able to spend it yet, because they are going to wait to see, is it really true that this transaction, and they have used that to reverse a lot of fraudulent activities. So then the bank need to build their infrastructure to be able to meet timely resolving of cases, because that's the greatest challenge. Because you are telling somebody that has only 20,000 in his bank account, he's going to withdraw, and he wants to use it he needs to withdraw like 15,000, and he goes to the ATM, he puts his ATM debit him of 15,000, and did not pay him. Now you are telling him to wait for that 1 week. For
the money. I mean, it is the attitude of the banks for me at times. So I had a particular experience where there's a daily limit of 50K on this particular account. And then I was trying to make transaction of 50K. It didn't go. And then I made another transfer of 50K. And the bank was telling me that both transactions were successful. So I was asking them, how was I able to make 100,000 Naira transfer on an account that has a daily limit of 50K? I mean, it's the way and manner they go with it, and then it drags for long, and you wonder if, we have a system that is working. Vanessa has called in from Abuja. Good morning, Vanessa.
Good morning.
Good morning. Please go ahead with your contribution.
Okay, so I wanted to just comment on what your guest said concerning dispensing in smaller units. Countries like the USA or England that dispense in smaller units, you could tell that their money has value. But if you look at here, if we're going to have a limit of 100,000 Naira a week, and then you're dispensing 200 Naira or 100 Naira, what exactly is someone going to be able to buy as much as this with money in smaller units? So you would see that I think that this will create a strain on the economy to people, because they might have to now go into trade by backpack. They might now say, okay, I've exceeded my limit for the week, please, can you give me this, I will give you this instead. Let us do an exchange or something like that. So I don't really think that Nigeria is ready for this in particular. It's a brilliant policy, but I feel that the country is not really ready for this right now.
Implementation is also another thing, Vanessa. Let's wait to 31st of January and see how it goes. Thank you so much for your contribution.
Vanessa was not listening to me. I brought that point that with the inflationary figure, 100,000 before might not be,
and that CBN's data might not be in accordance with reality. We're going to take a short break. When we return, we'll be asking the question, where are the new design notes? Have you handled one yet? And how many copies are you getting when you visit the bank?
In the month of December, on the 1st, it is World AIDS Day. On the 3rd, attention shifts to persons living with disabilities, and December 9th is dedicated to International Anti-Corruption Day. 10th is Human Rights Day, while the 11th is the 2nd anniversary of the abduction of over 300 students in Kankara, Katsina State. On the 12th of December, the World Health Organization dedicates the day as Universal Health Coverage Day. On the 17th of December, the abducted Kankara boys were freed 6 days after. 18th of December is set aside as International Migrants Day. It is the last month of the year. Brace yourself for an interesting December. Stay with TVC News.
It's not your regular show. It's an online interactive session where we share my views on the everyday issues that cut across politics, security, health, current affairs, governance, and so much more. I am passionate about our country. I choose to support any conversation geared towards building a better Nigeria. I am Babajide Kolaji Otitoju. Join me every Saturday on TVC News YouTube channel as I discuss Nigeria and the world at large on the show, Issues with Jide.
You're watching This Morning, and we're talking about the new Naira notes, cash withdrawal policy of the CBN, and other matters arising. Reverend Dominic has called in from Alimosho. Good morning, Reverend.
Let me give you the latest information. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead.
For you to revise your money that is default in POS, it's not more 7 days, it's 8 days. I went to bank yesterday and I was shocked. The lady in the counter told me, sir, it's 8 days. And when you look at my account, he said, sir, you have 5 unreversible money here. I said, how? Because I've been doing it for many days. You buy fuel, it will be default. You buy another one, that kind of thing. I don't even know I have 5, about 5 of which I have not reported. This as bad as it were. And seriously, I came out from back yesterday. I wanted to buy some food stuff. So I went to ATM. The reason is that let me see how the new notes look like. Because a few weeks ago, the CBN have announced that they have reactivated their ATM all over Nigeria. It's 9 new Naira notes. So to your surprise, I got 30 old Naira notes. But I'm watching television now. You are calling on your news line that a kidnapper was arrested in Lagos Ibadan Expressway maybe this week or last week. And the police got new Naira notes from him. Now, I went for 8 days, I could not get it. But the kidnappers have already new Naira notes. It didn't concern the way we do policy in Nigeria. Montag, please help me. Why do we do this policy that not help matters? Our economy is coming every day. Naira has no more value. Instead of discussion to be how Naira will have value, our discussion is that how much we take from banks, how much we do. Does it make any sense in this world? Does it make sense in a sane world? There is no discussing how to build our economy. We're discussing how much we take, how much we bank, how much. Does it make any sense? The system is not working yet, but it's a work in progress. The system is not working well. The POS is not working well. But that should not be the discussion. This cashless policy have been here for many years. We have to pursue it well. But the discussion is so primary that what we're talking about, how much you take and put, is not supposed to be the discussion. Naira has no more value. 1,000 Naira cannot buy what 100 Naira we buy 2 years ago. We don't discuss about that. The issue is neither here nor there. I guess the incoming government should, discuss about the economy. It's getting worse every day. Good morning, Nigerians.
Good morning, Reverend Dominic. Thank you for your contribution. I don't know what bank you visited, but that bank is not obeying CBN reversal policy. The CBN reversed that policy some 2 years ago from 5 or 6 days to just 24 hours for manual reversal, and also 48 hours for refunds for failed not on us ATM transactions. What I do is I send them emails and I call them out on Twitter. Anytime you mention the bank on Twitter, they don't like it, so they reach you personally. And I keep making reference to the CBN policy, but the banks do not comply with it. And this is for an economy that is going cashless.
I think, again, you have to look at the CBN, because even in the CBN website, you also have a place whereby you report any transaction that is not reversed to you within the next 24 hours.
They were even supposed to pay you fine, like 10,000 or thereabouts.
So, but I think I said something initially. I said, what has made us make so much noise about the cashless policy? We have not seen people that break that rule being punished for doing what they have done. So until we begin to punish people based on what is set as a law, we won't get the kind of result we should get. I think for me, that is the take. And Reverend Dominic, he seems to have so much money That's why it's even the bank that allowed him to know that he has 5 withdrawals. I mean, 5 reversals.
5 reversals.
That means there was so money in the account. He was just keep doing what he was doing. So he should thank the bank that the banks did not even tell him just. So for me, I think the reversal issue is what the CBN should be looking at also. How can they help in that area? But you know, the challenge again when they tell in terms of reversal is we don't have data. In these developed economies, that reversal is done immediately. They have your data, they know where you stay, they have your social security number, they know where you work, they know what your income is. They have all these things. So if I do it for you, I know that your next paycheck or the next one, I'm going to collect the money in whatever form, if by chance that money actually went through and you have spent it. So, but in Nigeria, we've seen issues where somebody was, was arrested recently by the fraud, anti-fraud in the special fraud unit in Ikoyi, that a payment was made mistakenly into his account. And he kept withdrawing that money. And even when they called him and said, look, this money does not belong to you, the person said he mistakenly paid that money. He refused. He kept on withdrawing that money. So, and you go to the bank, I have an issue, somebody has a POS issue, like I was saying, the money was withdrawn out of his account. He was able to trace it that this money was fraudulently obtained from me. I wanted to buy goods and the services was not rendered to me, and the person has fraudulently withdrawn my money. And he said, can that account be blocked? And they told her that account has been involved. A lot of people have even complained about that account, but yet they don't have the power to stop a transaction on that account, except you go to the police, you do a police report, then they bring it to the bank and say, so it's all bureaucracy, it's all bottleneck.
Very clumsy.
Before you do that, the person has finished all what he wants to do. So I think.
And we have the data, Mr. Mukhtar.
There's a lot to do.
There's the BVN, there's the NIN. The question is, what are we doing with them? But are you concerned that people are not getting these new notes? I mean, there's a deadline for 31st of December.
I made a scenario to somebody. They said, I can't speak the Yoruba very fluently. And they said in Yoruba land, they said there's an adage that says, he that they are bringing wife to, you don't need to stand up. Just sit down where you are. The wife will come. Why are you standing up? The wife will come and meet you. So for me, I don't think we still have from now till January. Okay. So why are we so much in a haste to
There's still enough time.
There's still enough time. And if it doesn't work, then they said the old and the new will work pari passu. So you collect the old or you collect the new, it's still a legal tender. So for me, I'm not bothered about whether it's old or new. No, I know people that are bothered and those that have so much.
The implication of delaying the Naira notes would be the 11th hour rush.
The CBN said banks are open on Saturday for you to bring in the old Naira. Let me tell you, what you need to know is that liquidity squeeze is part of the tool to control inflation. So cash
if the cash is scarce.
Yeah. When you go cashless, it helps you control inflation. You don't. The CBN deputy governor said we have an order for 500 million to be printed. Now, out of that 500 million, you don't expect that those 500 million will be printed from now to January. Okay. It's also a tool. It could be 500 million, and all they will print now is maybe 100 million. They will gradually want to, you don't put all the whole 500 million into the system at a go. Then you create inflation. I already know inflation is high. See, those are questions that I expect.
Let me hold you for a minute to take Mazi Okorafor's call. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Nito. Good morning, Mr. Mukhtar.
Good morning, Mazi.
Happy Christmas. Happy Christmas, sir. Well, when we look at or talk about this issue of CBN affair, Nigeria is in the cash market. And now, do you know what CBN have done now? At least they have opened windows for all those banks. People have not been going. There are some banks that when you look at it, you see that customers are not there. With this issue of 500,000, they will not take more customers because some of them POS may decide to go to all those banks that are not vibrant and open up to 6 different accounts. If you open an account, maybe in 10 banks, those ones that are not vibrant, you still make your money and do your business. But the question is this. If you go to the bank, the money you collect now, I don't know whether there is another chemical or what, very damp,
And that's why I advise Nigeria, if you collect money this time, please try and look for soup and water and wash your hands so that we not contact one another Yamayama disease with this money we collect, because the money are so damned. But the question is, the CBN policy that I've made now, Nigerians are just sitting back. Many have money at home, but they will not bring it. When they say closing date, you see them carrying that money that have expired to go and do offering in their respective worship centers, which is a sin, which is not healthy. So I will advise Nigerians, those who have money, please go to the bank and put them. Not the way when it is closed, you take it to your religious organization to do offering.
All right.
See that it's not healthy.
Thank you so much. I am sure that churches will ban cash offering on the 31st of January on a lighter note. But another interesting development is the fact that some traders are not accepting this new note. Yeah. There's a video online of, I think it was a bus conductor who said there's no way I'm collecting it. And the fear is substantiated. I have seen videos where people clean the Naira notes with cloth, the new ones, and then there is a color bleeding happening. You don't know whether it's the fake you're holding. What do you think have been done? Perhaps proper awareness to encourage people to take it, because it's one thing to have the new Naira notes. If you can't spend it, that's also not good PR for the CBN.
Yeah, the CBN said it. One of the reasons that they were redesigning the Naira note was for security, to be able to make sure that they deal with the fake
There's
notes,
no
counterfeiting that is already in the system. And I think I said in your program, was it on Tuesday, that the CBN need to do a lot of enlightenment. Those days, when you collect the note, they want to take the fake one. When you go to the market, you raise it up like this, and you see the coat of arm or this, and then you begin to know whether it's the real one. But that was because there was already tension. They told them what to expect. They told the market woman what to look out for. And then maybe the CBN was really listening, because just this morning or yesterday, this morning, I saw them printing on security features to look out to know. So sometimes a lot of things happen in the social media. The same way you are saying somebody is rejecting this note. I was in Kaduna last week. Somebody also was rejecting the old note. I mean, a Kekena Pep guy was telling the guy that he will not collect the old note, collect the new note, because so it all boiled down to there is no enlightenment. You need to enlighten Nigerians. So that's where I think the CBN has really failed in their policy. What's the National Orientation Agency? How they partner with them? Ministry of Information. You don't just give information only by the side of government. This also is a national information. How much are we partnering with the media house, on social media? Every aspect, I expected that CBN should be the ones that are trending in terms of enlightenment, not trending in terms of complain about people say this is fake or no, but they should be trending. They should be enlightening over 100 and something million Nigerians. Have Nigerians in the diaspora when they say, look, they learned that this Naira note will soon be. They were even giving it to people, say, please just pay it into my bank and change it. And I mean, somebody was coming and saying, my wife have up to 50,000. Will there be? So you need to enlighten them. You need to enlighten Nigerians. That information is not going out. That's why somebody is saying, I don't want. That's why somebody is so shouting that I've not seen the note, when we have from now till January. So definitely there need to be an enlightenment.
All right, let's hear from Joseph Chuku, CEO Carry Asset Management Limited, has joined us now. What do you make of the current situation with the new Naira notes? Nigerians are saying they're yet to handle it. Some people do not collect it as a means of financial exchange. Others are saying, I'm not collecting any cash if it's not the new note. What's the implication of scarcity of cash on the economy?
Okay, thank you for having me, and apologies that I joined quite late. You see, what is happening today is, like my colleague over there said, is that the public does not have enough information on the new currency note. And because there were no drastic changes physically, I mean, what an average person can see on the notes other than the color. And again, there is information out there that the note had been counterfeited. So an average person who had not seen this note for the first time does not know how to identify the new note, and is not sure that is not going to be presented with a fake note, since he or she has no skills whatsoever or no knowledge of the core attributes of these notes and that's why the acceptability is weak at this point. So I can clearly understand an average person who says, look, I won't take this new note because one, what you're giving me, I don't even know how it is. I've never seen it. And like my colleague over there said, there was not enough public awareness. I mean, there was no, I'm not seeing any adverts running in the newspapers or on television showing people visually what the new notes look like, or highlighting the physically recognizable security features of the new note, so that an average market woman will, on seeing or on being presented with this new note, can say reasonably well that this is the genuine note or not. So if you have a situation where the new notes are circulating side by side with so-called counterfeited notes, and most people have never seen the new note and have no skills on how to identify the new note, the logical thing, the safest thing they will do is what they are doing now, to say, look, I will accept the new note, and just to protect themselves. So I think a lot has to be done by the central bank. Prior to the time when the old note becomes, even when the old note ceases to be legal tender, there will still be concerns about the new note if people do not know the security features of the new note that are visually or physically recognizable. So the central bank needs to, and Mint, Nigerian Minting and Printing Company, should quickly start a public awareness on the physical attributes of the new note, so that an average Nigerian will recognize them when they see them, and will be able to recognize the fake ones or the counterfeited ones. So, and that's the only way you can give them comfort to begin to accept the new notes.
One of the reasons the Apex Bank is introducing the newly designed notes is to fight hoarding. There are perceptions right now that, well, we can't find the money. Is there a chance that this new policy will completely give government control of the cash in circulation?
Well, it doesn't. It could. Not the new note that will give government control over the tax matters. Is what will give government more access to an average taxpayer's income is the cashless policy. You see, if you are doing all your transactions through the banking system, what happens is that with your BVN, the tax authority can easily sum up your total revenue or total receipts over a period of time, and can use that to give you what they call a best of judgment in case you don't file your tax returns. So, but if you are doing transactions with cash, you circumvent the banking system, and there's no way they will keep track of your revenues if you don't file your tax returns. So the cashless policy is what will give the tax authorities more latitude to have access to the revenues or income of taxpayers, be they companies or individuals. And because a company will have a tax identification number before they open an account. So any transaction that goes through the banking system with a tax identification number, you can actually sum them up across the banking system. An individual with your BVN, which is a single, which is constant in all your banking relationships, irrespective of the bank, they can also determine your total revenue, not necessarily your net income. And then when they impose this base of judgment tax on you, you will now be compelled to file your tax returns or to submit your actual net income and expenditure, and arrive at net income that is taxable. So that's what will give them the not necessarily the new Naira notes. It's just the fact that the limit to what you can do in transactions you can do with cash has been highly restricted, and therefore most people will have to pass their transactions to the banking system.
What's your ratings of the current transparency with the bank charges? Because that's also the biggest fear, why people don't want to put their monies in the bank and make transactions between banks. But now that the cash is not going to be as readily available as it used to, what can we do now to ensure that people are not just completely being ripped off?
No, come again. What can we do to ensure that people
are not ripped off through these bank charges, these numerous bank charges?
Okay, that's what. Unfortunately, we don't have a strong consumer advocacy group, because some of the current charges that they impose on people's banking relationship are actually what a strong consumer advocacy group should push back on. Like you rightly said, now we're going to do a lot more, almost all our transactions to the banking system, and the bank is charging you maintenance fees and stamp duties on transactions that do not involve any form of, that has no business, that they don't need to vouch. because a stamp transaction, a stamp duty should be on a legal voucher receipt. So if people are paying any money into the account, they are taking 15 naira on each transaction, and sometimes they are not even income; they are just transaction costs, and then you are imposing taxes on them. So it's actually be a problem that a consumer advocacy group should push for. The rate at which we pay charges to banks and to government, because the stamp duty is paid to government, maintenance fee is paid to the banks, and then the banks, central bank at some point said where they're taking away COT, cost on turnover, cost on turnover, and then they are replacing it with maintenance fee, and they impose same rate on those maintenance fees that they were supposed to have waived from the COT, because progressively what we saw a couple of years back is that the central bank insisted on a progressive and gradual reduction of the cost of turnover, COT. And when that came down, they now eventually eradicated COT and another imposed maintenance fee. And the maintenance fee became even higher than the last rate at which COT was being charged. But most importantly, the issue of imposing stamp duties on banking transactions, VAT on banking transactions, are inimical to good low-ticket transactions, end up eroding their capital from taxes. I know if you go to a place like the lounge in local airports and they charge you 3,000 naira, and you want to pay them with POS or any of the online payments, they insist on charging you for the commission they will pay. And I tell them, look, you can't charge me a commission, that's your operating cost. And they're saying, look, if we take this cost, then we are running at a loss. And that's what is killing some of the SMEs. So I think a strong consumer advocacy group should push, particularly for SMEs, that we are imposing unnecessary financial charges. And when you are pushing for financial inclusion, the best you do is pull back on those charges and allow
I hear you, Mr.
to embrace it.
Unfortunately, that's how much time we have. But if you can do it in 30 seconds, are you optimistic that this is going to deal with vote buying come February 2023?
Yes, I believe that consumer advocacy groups should push back on some of the charges. If the central bank is pushing for a financial inclusion, enhanced financial inclusion, it should also be willing to reduce charges and compensate for it with a larger volume that is going to attract.
Mr. Chiku, thank you so much for your contribution. We have to go now. The issue of vote buying, you're optimistic that this new withdrawal limitation will address it?
If you see the politician fighting over it, you know that it has reduced it. It might not totally eliminate it, but I think it will reduce it. It will reduce it.
Thank you so much for your contribution. Mukhtar Mohammed, stockbroker, financial analyst, investment banker, CEO of Finance with Mukhtar. It's always a pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you.
Johnson Chiku joined us virtually, CEO Carry Asset Management Limited. A big thank you to you as well. And everyone who's called in and been a part of the program, thank you so much for watching. Congratulations, you made it, and Merry Christmas. See you on the other side.
Men do not like overconfident women.
Don't touch me without my permission.
I'm a playful guy and I do get carried away sometimes.
You are selfish, manipulative, and